Put down your baby and pick up a beer. Dad Jokes is back with a brand new episode. I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you're listening to the podcast of two dads going through the journey of fatherhood while you all get to sit back and listen to us talk about what's going on. And Brandon, typically we meet every week or two and have been doing this now for years, which is crazy to think about. But this has been one of the longer breaks between our episodes, and it pretty much is 100% my fault. So it's good to talk to you, Brandon.
For the first time ever, normally this is all me, but I actually took your advice this episode, and I did pick up a beer. I'm drinking raspberry creamsicle M43 by Old Nation, and it might be my new
Okay.
favorite beer. I love it.
That's I'm actually not drinking a beer. I'm feel like I can't drink beer anymore. I can only drink wine, Brandon, because me and
Oh my
yep, exactly.
god.
For everyone listening, me and my wife, we just got back from Europe. We spent 12 days in Italy. We'll kind of go into that, but we were gone for 12 days and have been back now for just a few. So that's why we didn't record for a while. Well, again, it was my fault. So this episode, we're going to kind of do kind of a catch up, what's been going on, go over a few things, but no real hard topic like we usually do. Because again, it's kind of my fault. But before we do all that, the show's called Dad Jokes for a reason, Brandon. Do you want to go with your dad joke first, or should I go first?
I can go because there's a chance I've done this before, but I don't think I
Okay.
have. And if I have, I'll have a backup ready. So you can tell me if I've done it before. My backup will be at the end. All right, Jerry. What do you call a magician who lost his magic?
I don't know.
Ian.
Mm. We've
Ian.
done something very similar, but I don't think it was that. We're basically it's
Okay.
the same type concept, but yeah, I don't think we've done that.
Yeah. Clearly, I like
Ah,
similar jokes.
okay. I don't hate it, but Brandon, what else has been going on since we've last talked? I mean, I feel like definitely when you got little kids, especially the age that KJ is, a few weeks can be a long time for a lot of things to
Oh,
happen.
it
So,
is.
what's been going on?
So, I mean, you said we don't have a topic this week, but this is a topic. I mean, it's a life update after basically, I went and looked. The date on my notes for last episode was quite literally a month ago. So,
Really?
I probably prepped for that. Like, it's when you start. And I probably started maybe the day before we recorded, maybe the day we recorded. So, it's been a minute. And at that point in time, my notes said Bryce is getting ready for school. So you're right. A lot has happened in the meantime.
I
I'm
think
not
that
gonna
was two
bury the
episodes
lead.
ago. Not to
Was
ruin
it?
anything. Yeah, because our last episode we definitely talked about Bryce going to school. So I think you might have missed an episode in your notes, but it's definitely been a
Ah,
few while. It's been so long we don't remember where our notes
maybe.
are.
Yeah, maybe I didn't type it. But either way, what happened with school did not get talked about, and that is that we made a decision to pull Bryce from school.
No.
We talked to my parents. Have I talked to you about this?
I
I
no,
don't
I
even
was
know
gonna
if
say
I.
I didn't even know that because when I
Oh,
left,
so
he was still going. He got sick,
okay.
and so he was
Yeah,
sick, so that he was out for a few days, and you were worried about
that's what happened.
reintroducing him back in. But that's the last place I had heard about what was going on.
So, long story short, and really it's not gonna be short. It's gonna be long story long. My both myself and basically Bryce's support system, my parents, Kelsey, we were already a little apprehensive about him going back. But after a conversation with Kelsey and my parents, we kind of looked at his long term plan. There, he was already the youngest kid in the class. He was 2 when we started, and I know kids go to daycare every day at earlier ages than that, so it's not that big of a deal. But we did have the backdrop of my parents who basically said, if you don't want him going, or if we don't feel like he's ready, and wink wink, we don't feel like he's ready, he doesn't have to go right now. And kind of what it came down to for us is we like when we would pick him up, it was already a struggle dropping him off, but when we picked him up, it it didn't seem like he was like, it wasn't that he was happy to see us. it was just like he was happy to escape
Relieved.
almost.
He
And
was
he was
more
just,
relieved than
yeah,
yeah.
like it was just tears of just like it seemed like he was just stressed. And the funny thing is, like, I feel like I had at the time like my first real big boy conversation with him. And since then we've had more, and I'll kind of get into that. But I started almost like, I mean, you know, you said like a therapist as an example, like you might give a service level answer, and then they start asking questions that kind of dig into the root. And um, I know my kid, and so
Mhm.
I know what to ask. I just hadn't done that a ton before. I do it to like figure out how his day went, but the root of the questions that I was asking is I kept getting back, and this is his words, not mine, but he'd say, "I'm sad," and he kept
Mm.
saying it over and over again. And like when Bryce was like, "Hey, Bryce, are you excited to go to school tomorrow?" And he give you like he's matching your energy. He say, "Yes, Bryce go to school, and Bryce is gonna cry." And
Oh,
it's just
man.
like it's conversations like that. But for me, the straw that broke the camel's back was I was sitting in his room, and we were having like a conversation, and I know this sounds crazy because the kid had just turned 3, like, but it felt like he opened up, and he basically told me he didn't want to go back to school. And so in the back of my mind, I got both my parents and Kelsey who don't want him to go back to school. But my mentality on it is we're going to be dealing with this regardless
Mhm.
for a period of time, whether it's now, whether it's a year from now. So, in my mind, does it make more sense to just go ahead and rip the band aid
Rip the
off and let's
Band-Aid,
go
yeah.
through this right now? Um, but it, in talking to him, it seemed like that's not what he wanted. And I feel like he actually gave me his, and maybe I was looking for it because it sucked dropping him off and it sucked picking him up. And it didn't help that he got sick so quick coming back, and then
Mhm.
we got a baby at home that we got to worry about. But part of the reason that we even thought about it in the first place was to try to give my dad some relief, knowing that the new baby was coming, and based on KJ's behavior, they felt very comfortable in being able to handle both the kids. So that part of it wasn't an issue anymore. And my parents basically took that burden mentally off of us, so we can make a decision that we felt like was best for Bryce at the time. So it if it was up to me, and I think after what ended up happening, I think it would have been the wrong decision by my part. I would have left him in there for probably 2 more weeks and then come back with the same decision and pulled him out. We did get some feedback from his teacher, and this is the tough part. Like we try to talk to the teacher in the moment, but it's so much chaos. You got other
Right.
kids crying who don't want to be there. Like the teacher's busy. He's a half day kid, so she still has the rest of the day and rest of the class she has to get back to. So it's really hard in those initial like days to get feedback from the teacher. And the feedback we got, it probably would have been helpful to have more when we were going through it. But she said, "Hey, we see this all the time." So this is for all the parents listening as well. Obviously, they see it all the time. We're equipped to handle it. Just so you guys know, and we respect whatever decision you make. Bryce is by far not the worst I've ever seen. He does have some separation anxiety, but I think that he would have come out of it fairly quickly. She said even in the day before we pulled him out, he had started to like open up a
Open up.
little bit. Um, she said it was still tough, but towards the end of the day, things got a little bit better. But ultimately, as far as we're concerned, our plan from the beginning has been to have him be one of the oldest kids in kindergarten. So he would still have an additional, right now, 2 more years of preschool minimum, maybe 3 before he even starts kindergarten. So 1 more year isn't going to do him any harm. And in our minds at the time, it could have potentially, and I'll get into it in a little bit, it could have potentially scarred him from school. So
Mm.
we didn't want to risk that, and we had the option, luckily enough, to not send him there. So that's what started off our time away from the podcast.
Yeah, that's big doings, you know. That's a hard topic for anyone. One, having your kid go to school, even if it goes well, is is a gigantic thing, right? And then, I think it's hard for it to go super well, like perfect, because it is a big change, especially, Bryce is the oldest kid, right? So he hasn't seen other kids in the family go to school, and he doesn't go to daycare, so this is very, very new for him. So I'm sure we're going to be dealing with that next year with Peyton for sure. We deal with it a little bit, even like I said, at church when we like have her go into the classroom. It does not go super well. Now she tends to warm up, I think, but yeah, like you said, like she like we used to say, hey, you're gonna go to church and see your friends, and she'd be like, I don't want to see my friends. Like that's tough, It's like so it's I don't know. I don't really have the answers for it, but I think kind of what the teacher said is probably a lot of kids go through similar types of things, and it's
Yeah.
it's a band-aid you got to rip off at some point, but when is the right point? That's what you got to kind of decide as a parent. So
And some of
um
the other things that kind of have made me feel a little bit more at ease and at peace with the decision is, I mean, we're probably a month away from that decision being made, and we are just now getting over some of what I would call the ramifications of sending him to school when we did. Like he has been extra clingy. He would
mhm,
have he's never had an issue being dropped off of my parents. There have been some like tears that came in dropping him off,
mm,
even at my parents' house place. So there were some like reciprocal effects of what I would say is us taking them to school. And every kid's different. Keep that in mind too. Like not every kid has separation. My parents tell me this was not an issue with me. Um, like every kid is a little bit different. But I had apprehension beforehand, just in the way you could tell certain things in how he acts when we try to force him into situations. So we went into it with an open mind, but that got closed pretty quick, and seeing what he went through, and then when I had that conversation with him, it was it was tough, but I think it was the best decision overall. And it's in my mind led to some really cool things. Like and just to kind of tie a bow on this, long term, we're a part of an organization called Parents as Teachers. Or Kelsey is a part of the organization. In his same school that he would end up going to, they actually have a classroom all the time. So you can pop in and out of there daily. And so we can get him used to the school experience. My mom is going to be taking him there. The plan right now is at least once a week, to kind of get him used to just going in school, going in the building. It's going to be with obviously somebody he knows. So if there are organizations around you guys who are listening, that may be an option as well if you want to introduce your kids to school, especially if you can get them in the school they're going to. Um, but since then, man, he's been way clingier. Like I said, has the separation anxiety, but it's also led to some of my favorite things that have happened about him. So every day, I'm saying it led to. This could just be the phase he's entering to. Um,
right.
but every day at drop off, like when I drop him off at my parents' house, so we have our little ritual. I give him a hug. I give his brother a hug. Been doing that for a while, but lately, once I get in my truck, I normally roll my window down and a Disney soundtrack is playing, and I'll sing a song to him out of the window. Well, he yells back at me and says, "One more hug." And so I get out of my truck. He hops off of the step and he runs over to me, gives me one more hug, and then runs back up to my parents on the steps. That's something that's been super cool. Another thing is every day when I come home from work, and this didn't used to happen as much, but he's waiting at the window for me to get home.
That's cool.
And then as soon as I pull in the driveway, like the smile on his face is like it's crazy. And we talk to each other there. And then the last thing, and it might be my favorite, every day before bed he wants to snuggle. Like he
Mm.
specifically asked me to snuggle in the bed and once his time with dad 1-on-1. And those are the little things that like I kind of think about it, and I feel like I'm being somber, in this in the beginning of this episode. But those are those things that, like, as a parent, you always try to be present, and when you do it in moments like that, it's like it's amazing, but it also sucks because you're like, you think about it and like, man, I'm not that far away from this kid. Like, he don't want to do that anymore. And
Right.
maybe that's 2 years, maybe that's 3 years. And that might be it. But it's just crazy to think about, like, these little humans that we help create and kind of mold their perspective, and they they want you, they need you right now, and then it's like, I gotta. They say cherish the moment, but it's like, like, you try to, and it's like, I just
Right.
want to capture. I want to capture this moment and not leave it. So it's been a great month for our household, and I got more I'm gonna get into, but we're 15 minutes in. And I got people in the car about to start crying listening to me talk. So let's hear about your exciting news.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been kind of a crazy time for us, and actually some stuff weirdly similar to what you're dealing with, but for different reasons. So obviously, Macy and I went on a trip to Italy, just the two of us. Something we kind of been planning for like a year now, a bucket list thing that we didn't think we were going to be able to do for till much later in life because of a number of different things. The opportunity kind of presented itself, and we kind of planned this trip. And we were super excited. Italy's always been kind of the top of my list, and not to go too much into this because it doesn't have a lot to do with parenting, but
We
it was
we
something
want to
that
hear about this, Jerry.
we planned it, and the thing is, like, anyone who knows me, I'm a big time planner, and I want stuff like right and tight, but I get anxiety about travel, and especially when you're traveling to a foreign country. I'd never been to Europe or anywhere like that. I've been to like Canada, Mexico, and stuff, but not anywhere remotely like this. So it was a big deal. First thing I'll say is anyone out there who maybe has apprehensions about traveling abroad or is thinking about doing it, I think you absolutely should. It was amazing, best trip of my life. Just an amazing time, an amazing culture. Italy's great in general. We got to see so much. It was a great trip. But the negative of the trip, or the only thing that was really kind of weighing on us, was obviously that'd be far and away the longest we've ever been away from both girls, and that is hard, especially on mom. And I know Macy was struggling with that a little bit, but I will tell you, there's a lot of good that come out of it. One, today's technology is great. We FaceTime the girls at least 2 times every day, a lot of times more. We've got text messages and pictures constantly. Um, but the girls spent we dropped them off at my mom's house, and they spent a week at my mom's house. She's got a lot of things set up because she's got lots of grandkids. And then halfway through, they dropped them off to my in-laws, who watched them at our physical house. They stayed at our house and watched the girls for a week. And I'll tell you what, these girls, they probably want us to go back to Italy because they were living the high life when we were gone, Brandon. I mean, I'm talking, they were going to the zoo. They were going to, like, my mom has like a little kiddie pool in the backyard, and the cousins came over. They did Build a Bear one day. They went to Bronner's, which is like a big giant Christmas store in Michigan, and got Christmas ornaments one day. They were doing arts and crafts and just a million different activities. Every day they were doing something. I was like, they went to the cider mill and got donuts. I mean, they were having the time of their life. So that was cool. They even built like a chain thing that they ripped off every night before they went to bed. That was how many days left until mom and dad came home. So that was kind of
Oh, that's
cool.
cool.
And I think my mother-in-law wrapped a bunch of books every night. So every night they got to open a new book, and that was an exciting thing. So they were having a good time, and they would FaceTime us, and they were always happy. It wasn't like they were crying or like, "Where's mom?" or "Where's dad?" which makes you feel good, but also is like, man, I think Avery probably didn't even notice we were we were gone. Peyton definitely did. But anyways, the trip was absolutely amazing. I loved it. It's also cool when you do travel, if you do have kids, because then when you come home, instead of being sad, you're also super excited. And it was super fun. We got home super late, so we didn't get to see the girls the night we got in, but we woke them up the next morning, and Peyton just wanted to hold both me and Macy, and she like wouldn't even talk, which is not like her at all, because I think she was so overwhelmed. And then Avery just had a big smile on her face and was laughing, and thought it was great. But yeah, you could definitely tell the last few days that we've been home. There's been a couple things. Peyton's been a little bit more clingy. So is Avery. I think somewhat to do with that. Like this morning, I got Peyton up before I went to work, and she's like, "Daddy, you don't go to work. You put jammas back on." That's that's the first thing she said to me this morning, and I was like, "Oh," I was like, I didn't even tell her I was going to work. She just that's the first thing she said to me. And then she constantly I can hear her like asking like, "Oh, Daddy, come with me," or "Mommy, come with us." She like I think she's like conscious of us not being around, and then she's also acted out a little bit too, which I think is because of that. Like she's had like some moments where she just randomly like acts out on stuff that I don't think she normally would act out on. Like she didn't want to help pick up something the other day, and it's just kind of funny at first. She kept telling us, she kept being like, "No, mommy picks that up," and I'm like, "No, Peyton picks that up." And then, but she just would not do it, so I had to like put her in timeout, and then it turned into a whole thing. But I think she's like trying to test some limits because of us being gone or acting out or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Brandon, like it's a big deal. Obviously, you're gonna travel away from your kids for that long. You got to have the support system, which we're so blessed to have. For us, it was a big deal because we know as the girls get older, pretty much every trip we're going to take mostly is going to be a family trip, right? And we want it to be a family trip. So we knew if we were ever going to have a trip like this, it was either going to have to be like now or it wasn't going to be for 10, 15, 20 years. And so that's part of the reason we decided to do it is because, like I said, Avery probably didn't even notice we were gone. And Peyton, although she noticed, it wasn't a big deal. She wasn't overly emotional about it. Whereas I feel like in a year or so, I could see it being a big deal, us not being there, and her reacting
Yeah, I
kind of
don't
it.
think
And
we
then
can get away
yeah.
with that right now.
Yeah, exactly. You got to know your kids too. So like for us, it actually worked out well because it was like, okay, this if we're ever gonna do it, now's the time. And I'm really really glad we did. It was great. The other thing too is you got to know. We've talked about this in the podcast before, Brandon, but you got to know your family dynamic and you got to know your spouse and kind of your setup. And we work a lot of hours. My wife works, a decent amount of hours, and then with everything we got going on with the kids and stuff, it's sometimes it's hard for us to get us time. And so one of the ways we're able to do that is sometimes like a trip or doing something. And so this is a way for us to kind of have some time for us because it is harder for us to do that during the week, especially since our parents watch the kids during the day. We often feel very guilty about asking them to watch the kids at night for like a date night or something. It's just, we just don't do it. So we don't really
Yeah,
have anyone to
same.
do that. So it's really, yeah, it's really hard for us to get like a date night or get away. So for us, it was also about that. It happened to be over our anniversary too, which was nice. And, if anyone needs advice or wants to pick our brain about Italy, please message me. I'd be more than happy to share with you everything we did or tips or tricks or where to go or what to eat, all that kind of stuff. I can do that, but I won't get into that on here. But that was a big thing, Brandon. The trip was amazing. Coming back, I'll go over some stuff after you kind of go over some more. But it was great, coming back and then seeing the girls that makes, like I said, it makes it great because you had a great trip, but then you're still excited to come home and you're excited to see them. And it's weird too. It's only 12 days we were gone, but it seems like they got bigger. It seems like they like
They
Avery seems
probably
like she has
did.
more hair and it just seems older, and even Peyton seems older. But I think sometimes it's just being away. So very very cool to see how they are when we got back. But it was also awesome because we could talk to them every day.
Did you notice anything when you got back about their dynamic changing potentially at all?
So their dynamic has been is kind of ever evolving, and you'll see this with KJ and Bryce. They are, I mean, they're very much siblings. They love each other, but it's now they're at the point where they love each other, but Peyton loves Avery as long as Avery's doing something that doesn't annoy Peyton, and Avery has zero consciousness of what annoys Peyton and what doesn't, and so she just doesn't. She just she's mad if Peyton's getting mad at her or taking something away from her because Avery's still at that age where everything's hers and there's no mine, yours, or anything. It's just she's going to do what she wants to do. And Peyton kind of has some boundaries and understands like, this is mine, this is someone else's, or this is my turn. And when Avery's not following any of that because she's not old enough to know, that's when you start to get issues. But they also like play together every day and they're super cute, and Peyton wants to take care of Avery all the time, which is really nice. She's This morning I got him up, and Peyton goes, "Daddy, can I have a yogi?" Which is a yogurt, and I'm like, "Yes, you can have a yogurt." And so I get her one. It's like a Go-Gurt. She's eating it. And all of a sudden she looks at Avery and she goes, Sissy, you want a yogurt? She goes, no, you can't have a yogurt. What would you like, Sissy? I'll get what you want. And it's like she's like having a conversation. And Avery doesn't know anything that's going on. She's just walking
Yeah.
around like ignoring her. But she's trying to have a full blown conversation. She's like, do you want apple? Do you want a banana? She's like asking her all these questions, and and Avery's just like yelling because she wants something. She doesn't care what it is. But it's cute. It's their dynamic is definitely fun to watch. And as Avery starts to get older and older, I think it's going to get more and more fun, and probably more challenging, but more fun too.
Yeah, that's something that in the past few weeks I've noticed a ton. Bryce is feeling more responsible for KJ, and I mean he's one of the first things he thinks about when he wakes up. He's going over there talking to him. He's just gotten better with him overall. It's I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to really be worried about him. Like he understands what he can and can't do. For a while in the beginning, Bryce was always a loving big brother, and interested in KJ, but you'd have to worry about him trying to pull his finger off
Right.
or like
He didn't know
poking him in
boundaries.
the eye.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he didn't understand the
and
boundaries.
I feel like those have been well established now, and it's just fun to watch him interact with them. I really can't wait for KJ to start walking and get a little older because part of me thinks that
All right,
right now
be careful,
KJ's
Brandon.
track. He,
Be careful, Brandon. Two walking, I thought the same thing, dude. It is tiring. Just wait. Just you wait. When they both are running
Well, your
around,
girls
that
came
is
in. They
tiring.
came into work earlier, and it was fun. I just
Oh,
saw a
it's
video
fun.
that your wife posted of them dancing together. It was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. So
Yup,
they're definitely good signs to it, or good sides
there
to it
is.
too. But part of the reason is like I think KJ is going to be able to get with Bryce fairly soon, and I know a couple year difference is not insignificant until you get really into like mid high school, but KJ's tracking to be bigger than Bryce. And Bryce might be in for a world of hurt if he has any issues with KJ going forward. But kind of speaking of KJ, we've started him eating food. So he's kind of run through the gamut. He's already been exposed to peanut butter. That went well, went way better than it did with his brother.
With yeah.
Egg, different fruits. He was eating a piece of toast the other day. I can't remember what. Oh, he had a lemon today as well. So he and a part of we waited with Bryce till 6 months. We did the same thing with KJ. It seems like KJ was a little bit slower to sit up on his own, but he's still working through that. But he can sit up assisted, and if you like prop him up, he just stays there and like wobbles
Right.
back and forth a little bit. Right now, so he's good there. But he was way more into food than Bryce was. Like it's not even close. From when other people are eating it, my mom actually joked with me earlier today. She's like, that boy nosy. I was like, are you eating around him? She's like, yeah. Like, oh my god, yeah, that's what. Like he is constantly like he'll break his neck and try to jump out of whatever chair he's in to watch you eat if he knows that you're eating. So it's funny, but that was also included. Hey, it's time to start introducing food to him, and he's taken to it well. From a temperament standpoint, I mean, from the very beginning, KJ has been a super sweet baby, and none of that's changed. The only time he's crying is if something's wrong or it's like 8 o'clock. If it's 8 o'clock,
Witching
if it's
hour.
8 o'clock and his mom is in the room and walks out, then he's probably crying. But other than that, it's for a reason. So that's great. Sleep wise, he has been like holistically better than Bryce was, but we're getting to the point where he need to start sleeping a little bit more because he's starting to catch up to where Bryce was at. And I get like consistently, I'm not falling asleep to probably 1 o'clock in the morning, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning because I'm trying to give Kelsey a decent stretch of sleep. But he does not like sleeping in his bassinet. And so you gotta like it's constant like going over putting the pacifier in. And really what needs to happen fairly soon, Kelsey, you're gonna be listening to this. We already talked about it. The boy need to come out of the room. He need to go into his own into his nursery. We're at the point. where I think that needs to happen pretty soon. But we are we are having a joyous struggle with some sleep patterns, and a lot of times I think he just wants to wake up and be like nursed for comfort, and
Yep.
then go back to sleep and get put into his pack and play. Um, so that's all been really good. We had joint doctor appointments recently. It's the first. Actually, it's happened once before. I can't tell you. I don't know how you guys doctor experience is. If there's one thing I hate more than anything else, it is waiting at the doctor. And typically, our doctor, we still have had to wait, but normally they get us right into a room. This last go around, they called us in and we waited in the waiting room. I know I sound like I'm just whining, and you guys listening probably are like, I deal with this every single time I go to the doctor. But we were waiting in the waiting room at a pediatrician where other kids are sick.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what happened? Like a day and a half after we left. So, hey, number one, we met a kid named Bennett in the waiting room. Bennett was very talkative, a couple years older than Bryce, wanted Bryce to like talk to him, play with him. Bryce was having none of it. Bryce was like literally it's it's funny how blunt kids are. So this kid like Bryce had a toy. Like we came prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Bennett's daddy, Bennett came with his daddy. Bennett daddy decided that he gonna come to the doctor's office and he just gonna have Bennett and whatever was in the doctor's office, nothing else. So Bennett was looking at Bryce in Bryce's coloring book. Bennett's looking at Bryce in Bryce's car, and Brendan's like, "You need to share," like telling Bryce you need to play with him. And Bennett was being like nice. He was introducing himself, but it was all for the purpose of trying to
Trying to
basically
get the
jack my
car
kids' toys.
yeah.
Yeah. So I see what's going on, and I'm gonna let Bryce make the decision. Bennett asked Bryce if he could play with his truck. Bryce looked Bennett up and down and said no. I was good with the decision. Bennett come over to me as the daddy, and Bennett says, "You need to tell him that he needs to share." And I told Bennett to get up out my face.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
sure you
joking.
did.
I'm okay, so I'm semi joking. I was nice to Bennett. Kelsey was nice to Bennett. Kelsey started playing like I Spy. Bennett daddy just sitting there looking at us. Like Bennett's daddy, like, okay, Bennett, you need to leave them alone, yada yada. But um, Kelsey started playing I Spy with Bennett. But one thing that happened, and I'm telling you, Jerry, and I know I'm going on a ramble about Bennett. I'm sorry if Bennett's daddy's listening. But so I'm holding KJ, and Bennett talking to Kelsey, and then he looks over at KJ. He said, "Oh, a baby," and he puts his whole hand on KJ's
Oh,
face, and I'm not
no.
quick enough. I yank KJ away, and Bennett's like, "How come I can't touch him?" And I said this. I was like, "I don't know you, Bennett," and I'm looking at his daddy the whole time, like, "Hey, you need to come get your kid, dog."
Oh,
And
no.
within 2 days, my entire family is sick, and I
Oh,
blame Bennett.
Bennett. The
So
Bennett
Bennett, if your
disease.
daddy listening, your dad, I want words with Bennett's daddy. I can't do nothing to Bennett. I want words with Bennett's daddy because you can
Oh,
probably
no.
still hear it in my voice. But we went to the doctor. Both Bryce and KJ checked out well overall until we had to take KJ back like a week later because he had a cold from
Mm.
Bennett. Um, this was Bryce's first time ever having issues at the doctor's office. This is kind of part of that behavior that we've been talking about. But yeah, we I got a couple other things to update us on and some baby gear, but overall that's been our last few weeks. Shout out to Bennett.
Well, we had some doctors stuff going on too when we got back. So, well, one was scheduled, one wasn't. So the non-scheduled one is Peyton. Over the last week, apparently, has decided to be even more clumsy than normal, and she keeps falling like randomly. But the other day, she and I wasn't home. Macy was home, and I guess she like fell like running or like I think she was just like doing normal stuff, but happened to trip and fall into the end table, and she got kind of a pretty good mark on her eye, and it wasn't. It was like above her eye, and it was like a little cut, but it was pretty deep. It wasn't like super long, but it was pretty deep. And anyways, she ended up bringing the girls up to work, and I saw it and I'm like, man, that's pretty deep. But Peyton was being fine. She wasn't acting weird. She had a band-aid on it. But I guess a couple hours later it was still bleeding. So Macy got nervous, so she took her to the urgent care to make sure she didn't need stitches, you know? And I'm like, great. She's gonna need stitches, she's gonna freak out. Not only that, but maybe it's gonna leave a scar on her face, you know? So I'm kind of tripping out while at work. Luckily, she didn't need stitches. They just glued it and hopefully it's going to heal fine. So, but that, we knock on wood, we've been pretty lucky with stuff like that. But yeah, she like the night before had her towel after she got out of the bath and tripped on that and like smoked her head on the ground. And then like the next day she like tripped and smoked her head on the table. I'm like, what is going on with this girl? She's never really had issues like this. And she's like falling all over the place. So
I
that
wonder
was
if
a little
there's a study
scary.
out there for like the elasticity of toddlers' heads, because
I don't
Bryce
know.
has hit his head in ways that, like, if an NFL player did it, they wouldn't be able to play the next week.
They do
It's been
cra
unreal.
they do crazy stuff, and it's just like and they were like another thing too is like we're talking about 2 kids walking. Her and Avery like have an uncanny ability to walk into each other, which also is dumb. But then also Avery right now is the perfect height for our kitchen table, and I
Oh,
swear
I
on
hate that.
everything, this kid, whenever
She
we're
aims for
she's
it.
at this age, well, whenever we're eating, she has to be either on my lap or Macy's lap, and so she will come over, but inevitably, always the same thing happens. She comes over to try to get, and on her way to us, as she's crying, she smokes her head, which just makes her cry louder and more upset every time. It happened tonight.
I'm
It
sorry,
happens
Avery.
every
That's
day.
not funny.
The poor kid hits her head on that table 100 times in a week, I swear. And it's just, but it is what it is. All but on a scheduled doctor's appointment, Avery had her scheduled doctor's appointment, and everything went well. So she's tracking a little bit like she's I think she's in the 60th percentile, 63rd percentile, something like that for weight. Her height's like 30 something percentile, and then she's right on average for her head. So basically, she's a little chunky and a little short, but everything else is good, nothing crazy. And she did well. She had shots and did pretty well with those, and was pretty good most of the day. But once Daddy got home, she was a terror that day. You could tell she was in pain, and we never had this problem with Peyton. I don't know if you guys had this problem with Bryce or KJ. We never had this problem with Peyton, but Avery does not take medicine well at all. Like at all. She will spit it out and she will not take it. And so Macy tried to give her Tylenol
No,
because
we
she
haven't
was
had that issue.
screaming and like you could tell she was hot right from the shots. Like she had like a little fever and she would not take medicine. Like she barely got any. So after she went to sleep, she was much better today because this was a day ago. So um, but yeah, that's a little bit of a pain when she does not take medicine. Even as a baby, she didn't take it well. She wouldn't take like we tried giving her like what are those drops called when I'm talking about the drops that are supposed to make them not cry
Yeah,
basically the gripe drops or whatever. she
yeah.
she basically I
Gripe
thought like
water.
I thought I killed her one time because she like almost died choking for like an hour because I gave her like a couple drops. Like swear it like was the craziest thing. And then Macy like looked at me and was like, we're never giving her anything ever again. But like she does not take medicine well. It's the
Bryce
weirdest thing.
loves it.
So does
It
Peyton,
honestly
and Peyton's
annoys me because
picky, and
I
and
hate
Avery's
giving
not.
medicine.
Yeah, no, Peyton loves it too. It's the weirdest thing, but the doctors went well. Um, Avery's definitely getting to that age. I mean, she's 15, the 15-month age where, she's just learning so much and growing so much and surprises you every day with things you can do or can't do. But she definitely is up and down. The other day, like I think I was telling you at work, she like, she's literally screaming, standing, and then also she starts clapping and laughing, and then goes back to screaming. All like nothing's changed, like nothing different is going on in the house. She's just doing this like this little crazy baby. But she's also starting to get, like I said, she's learning more things, doing more things, and it's exciting. Although I will say another rant on doctors' offices, those questionnaires they give you before they go in, like the behavioral ones. I
Yeah.
swear, there's
Are you
nothing
worried that
more like
your kid
like.
sucks?
Well, not only that, but like you start questioning like what you're supposed to do as a parent because they'll be like, "Can your kid take a Cheerio and put it between string and tie a necklace?" And you're like, "What? Should I be working on that? Like what is happening?" Like they'll just ask you the most random questions. You're like, I don't know. When in life would this scenario happen where I would ask my kid to take a toothpick and try to like what is going on? So it's just funny because then you answer the question, you're like, I don't know, probably not. I don't know if she can do that. And then they're like, ooh, your kid's behind, and you're like, what? So, anyways, apparently, I think if they're gonna ask those questions, maybe have some of the stuff out so parents can be like, okay,
Yeah,
let's see if my
test
kid
it out
can do this.
themselves.
But Avery pretty much was on track with most of the things, anyways. But it was just funny because Macy was telling me like she's like, yeah, they're like, can you pick a Cheerio and put it in a small container? Like, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Has she ever had Cheerios? No. So how do I know? But probably. I think she could do it. Like, I don't know. It's just weird
We
stuff.
just say yes and move on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was cool. The other thing kind of going on is uh, Peyton, we think we're going to sign up for gymnastics, like an actual class instead of just like an open gym. So we're talking about doing that. I think that could be kind of exciting because she hasn't done like a class since that first thing of soccer. So we got to wait on some more information. But she tends to like gymnastics, and so I'm excited if she does get into that. If perhaps that helps with some listening and following directions and things like that. So but yeah, what's the last few things you got to go over, Brandon? Then I'll hit a couple more things and we'll get out of here.
Really for us is just Bryce's growth as like he's turned into a real little human, and he's playing by himself. Um, Sometimes it's like it's stark the like even within a day how he can seem like he's 6 years old and fully independent, coming up with full thoughts, and then he also can seem like a 18-month-old baby who still completely needs mom and dad.
Yep.
But we're getting more and more of the older kid lately than the baby, and we still get the moments, and those are the moments that you kind of hold on to because you don't want to let it go. I'm starting to really understand why people have so many kids
Yeah.
because like like it's just fleeting. You're watching it just go like in front of your eyes. But I'm at that point where I feel like we're at the crossroads, and I don't know how long it's gonna last, but we're at the crossroads of like watching him become a version of the person he's gonna be for probably the next like 10 years until he starts having to deal with like real decision making and things like that, which is cool, but it also sucks a little bit at the same time. And then just some family stuff. We have family pictures recently. He's been to 3 apple orchards in the last freaking 3 weeks. So we're doing our normal fall stuff. It's been fun. He both of our kids are great and amazing, and I can't wait to get back next week and be back to having topics because I feel like I'm getting emotional at the end of this episode.
Yeah, I hear you. It's funny saying that because I feel like Peyton lately just she's definitely starting to get to where she's not just a little kid. She's like making like real thoughts, right? Or like putting like actual like processes in her head. And she's some things she's said in the last few days, just since we've been back, that were kind of funny. Like Macy texted me when she was at the doctor's office waiting to get her eye looked at because she's worried about her. And Peyton just looks at her and goes, "Don't worry, mommy. Just lay down and take a deep breath." Like that's what she's telling her. You know what I mean? Like she's trying to console her, and she's two, right?
Yeah.
And then she's just like I said, she just like makes these like when I woke her up and she's like, "No, daddy, you don't go to work. You put pajamas on." Like she's like telling you like also how to dress or like what's going on. And like I get home today and she's like, "Oh, sissy's not okay. She hit her head." Like I guess Avery just ran into the kitchen table. Shocker, right? And so she'd tell me, even though Avery was fine at the time, like, but she's just like starting to like put things together and really want to have conversations with you. And like before you would ask her a question, like you might ask her something all the time, right? And you might say like, "Oh, Peyton, what's your favorite animal?" It's always tiger, right? Or what's your favorite color? It's always pink. Well, now she starts like going, what actually
Got
is
the
my
old
favorite?
platypus.
Right. And then she'll start like asking you questions too. Well, what one do you like? And it's not just like a response. Like, before I feel like kids like almost learn certain responses and they just repeat them back to you. Like they parrot stuff. But like now she's actually thinking and telling you. And like today she was telling me she likes pink. And then Macy says something about like Avery liking pink. And she's like, no, I like pink. like Avery's not allowed to like it as
Yeah,
well. So, but she's growing up, and it's like you said, it's cool on one end and then it's scary on the other end. But it's she's still that little girl, but there's definitely things where I'm like, man, she's getting too big too quick. And then Avery, even like I said, she's gone from like being like a baby, like she's done toddler mode now, so she's starting to get to that mode. So I'm trying to enjoy
I could
both
tell that when
stages.
I saw her.
Oh yeah, she's a little hellion though. She's a little we like to say she's a feral
I
baby, and she
love
kind of
Avery.
is. She's crazy. She's just going around. She's like chewing on tables randomly. That kid does the craziest stuff. Although Peyton today, one random story, and
I hope that's not the
she
threshold for crazy because
she
Bryce
goes,
chews
Dad, can I
hella
have
tables.
toothpaste? And I go, what? I turn around. She took the top off the toothpaste and is sucking on the tube of toothpaste. And I go, no,
Wait,
Peyton.
Avery did that?
No,
Oh,
Peyton did
Peyton.
that.
Peyton. Okay.
And I go, no, Peyton, what are you doing? And then my Peyton, I love her to death, but she's the most emotional kid. And I didn't even say it loud. I was like, no, Peyton, don't do that. And she started crying for like 5 minutes because I told her no, or told her not to do something. But where does that even come from? Why does she all of a sudden want to eat toothpaste? So she's still a little kid, is the point with
Breath
that
was
story.
fresh.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, Avery was chewing on her toothbrush because, again, that kid who just wants to eat everything, and she's just funny. She's just walking around the room as we're doing this too, just throwing like stuffed animals and thinks it's hilarious every time. Like throws them like 1 inch, and then laughs, and then grabs another one, throws it like 2 inches and laughs. So she's easily entertained.
Good.
But yeah, Brandon, that's kind of what's been going on with us. It'll be exciting. I'm excited now, starting to get into fall and do some fall stuff. We're gonna do that over the next few weeks, and it should be fun. It should definitely be fun, and we start
Yeah,
getting into
you're
the
gonna hit up
holiday
some
season.
apple orchards and dunk your donuts in cider. You
Yes,
have fun with that.
team dunk the donut. So, but Brandon, you got a piece of baby gear to go over?
It's real simple. Bryce is crazy into cars right now, and you can spend 99 cents at Kroger or Meyer or wherever on a Hot Wheels car, and that kid will play with it like it is the like most
Mhm.
prized possession he's ever gotten. So good old fashioned Hot Wheels cars are my baby gear this week.
Mine's even more simple. Randomly, the other day, Macy gave Peyton Post-it notes, and she had the time of her life for like a half an hour.
Oh,
So
she's like already like a sophomore in college.
she loved Post-it notes. She called it her masterpiece. She was like making things with it. Yes. So yeah. She was like putting them on the end table and then drawing on them. I don't know, but apparently Post-it notes. So if you got Post-it notes and you want something new to give your kid, they think they're great apparently. So at least mine does. So that's
They
very, very
can
simple
stick
piece of
them
baby
everywhere,
gear.
so
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I was like annoyed at one point because I had gotten home. I'm like, why are there Post-it notes all over? And then Macy's like, that's Peyton's masterpiece, and she was liking it. So I was like, all right, then I'm not gonna argue. At first, I'm like, what are we doing? But yeah, Post-it notes. But I got a dad joke for you, Brandon. You ready?
I'm waiting with bated breath.
This is a classic type of dad joke, or a classic type of joke in general.
I'm
So
gonna guess it.
bear with me. I don't think you're gonna guess it because it's not really that type of joke. All
Okay.
right, you ready?
Classic joke, not a joke.
Yep. Brandon, a caveman and a bear walk into a bar. Bartender says, okay, what's your story? Caveman replies, bear with me.
Nope.
Bear with me.
Nope.
Bear with me. How about that? Did I say it like that? Bear with
I
me.
mean, is that what a caveman sounds like?
Ah. ah. Yeah, that's what
In
it
the
sounds like.
in the episode.
I thought it was funny. How
It's pretty
many
good. It's a
man walks
cherry
into a
joke.
bar jokes are funny or like I feel like they're all kind of similar. So, anyways, I thought it was good, but yeah,
Classic joke. Not a joke.
basically, if you haven't liked us already on any of our social media pages, please do so. If you haven't told your friends, please do so. If you haven't written a review, please do so. If you want to ask us anything, always reach out. We love to hear from each and every single one of you. we're excited to be back on our normal schedule. We're going to have another episode here in just a couple weeks. We'll have a topic for you, get kind of back on our regular set or how we do our episodes. But again, if you have any ideas or want us to talk about anything, always let us know. We take your guys' suggestions to heart, and almost always we end up doing a topic on what is suggested. So please reach out to us. But until next time, as always, I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you've been listening to Dad Jokes.